All right, time to complete our final takeaways and our questions for the lecture. So please go ahead and ask yourself, what have you learned and what is the things that you can take away from this lecture? And then more importantly, ask yourself what is still a little bit foggy in your mind and try to find ways to get clarification on that. But once that's the case, we can move on to our final checkpoints and a few takeaways from this lecture. So I hope you can agree that you now understand the significance and the meaning of each Newton's law. And if you do, then please check this box off with me. You also will not forget what the meaning of 1 Newton is, and you can hopefully relate that to the real world. That's really important here because you will be asked to do that over and over again in the future. Then we will never forget the density or the specific weight of water. And we talked about that, and you have to, of course, calculate that yourself, but make sure that you really get the correct number there. And last but not least, we understand that Newton's law of gravitational attraction is really used to derive some of the basic principles here for forces on the planet Earth and actually forces everywhere. But you have now full mastery of that law of gravitational attraction. And with that said, I believe we are now ready to tackle our very first homework. Let's move on to the homework page. All right, everybody's favorite is the homework, of course. And before we talk about the individual problems here, let me first tell you the very important thing that is marked in red here, that this is a homework that's very different from the other ones that you see. This is considered a training homework. And so the problems are actually very short. This will not be the case in the future. And we have some rules about the homework in this class. And one of them is to have 1 problem per half page. That would be a waste of paper in this case. And so in this exceptional case here on homework number 1, you can add more than 1 problem per half page as long as your work remains legible. But legible also means that you have distances between where a problem ends and the next one begins. So do not cramp them close to each other. Make it easy on yourself and your TAs to actually be able to see where your work begins and where it ends. And then the first thing you have to do is agree that you understand all the rules in this class and the homework format, just so that we are on the same page about that. Then we have some Newton law problems for you here. I don't think I have to say much, except please print these pictures. So for example, here you have to find an object of a body that has a weight of 2 Newton and another one that has a weight of 10 Newtons. Often the students are confused what they should do with that. So just take a picture of the object with your cell phone, and then usually you print it if we meet in class, but you just attach it to your PDF file if you submit it electronically. And the same is true here for the Heroes engine. So build a Heroes engine, take a picture of it, and then add it to your submission in your file. And I think those are the most common questions that I usually receive about that. And hopefully I was able to answer that. Now, this part here, unit conversion, relies on the concept of the variables. And I call this the homework variables. You know this, you calculated that through your 4-digit ID. And you can calculate your individual numerical values at this website. You probably did that already. But then the idea here is that you get used to them. And please understand that for the purpose of this homework, do not include any units. In fact, units do not come from the sheet that you get here. Units are always included here. So F1 is unitless on your piece of paper. It just happens to be a force. W1 is unitless. It just happens to be a distributed force. A is unitless. It just happens to be used for distances in this class, and so on. And so in these problems here, what you see in bold print is really the variable that comes from your homework sheet. And then here are the units that you have to play with, and you have to rearrange them. And you can either use prefixes or the short symbol, but I guess here it asks you to use prefix. So you need to take the symbol and turn it into a prefix. So the prefix 10 to the power of something. And I think that completes that problem. Then you have to work with other units here as well, but I think that's all the same. I don't need to explain much here. You can really read your way through that. Please make sure that here for number 3, you use 4 significant figures. This again is a training exercise. In the future, you will always use 4 significant figures and you will always lose points if you don't. So this is the first time where you do it, and we can explain to you why that is. And so here you can still make mistakes, but later on that will cause point deduction. And so we want you to practice it here. And conceptually speaking, this homework is not very difficult. It's not very engineering mechanics-like, but it gets you in touch with your variables and it gets you used to the format of the homework. We have another page to the homework. In this case, usually it's only on one page, but let's take a look at the next page. So last but not least, for this homework, you have to express the surface area of the Earth with 4 significant figures using proper prefixes, using these units. So it's effectively also unit conversion. And I'm pretty sure you can Google this part, right? And then here we ask you about the Statue of Liberty and the Eiffel Tower, and if you can express that in specific units. So this is all getting used to units and so on. And I don't think there's much I have to say here. I think it's all self-explanatory. But if you have questions, you know how to reach me, and we will have other opportunities to interact with each other before you submit this homework. So I wish you good luck studying with this, and I hope you have fun with your first engineering mechanics homework. Enjoy it as much as you can. I promise you, in this class, every homework is targeted towards a specific learning goal, and so don't skimp on it. Do not take any shortcuts, because shortcuts always hurt the student in the end. I know you hear this from every teacher, but I really mean it. I put a lot of effort into this class to help you, to help yourself. And if you try to trick yourself, then this all falls apart. So please be smart about it and work harder and smarter. So again, I wish you good luck with the homework. I'm looking forward to a fun semester, and I will see you in the next lecture. Until then, stay safe.